Hello, everyone. So we got a lot of stuff going on in the electric vehicle space, and some interesting comments to look at from Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford. Also have a look at the partnership between Tesla and Ford for the charging connection, and some interesting comments from Mary Barra, the CEO of GM. So first, let's look at a clip from an interview from the Fully Charged show where Jim Farley was a guest. I highly recommend watching this whole video, but let's have a look at a clip here.
And the charging was a problem,
Yes. If I explain to the listeners how crazy our software system is and why it's so difficult for legacy car companies to get software right, I'll do it very quickly.
Yeah.
So say probably $500 a vehicle, or let's say 350 quid a vehicle.
Yeah.
We farmed out all the modules that control the vehicles to our suppliers because we could bid them against each other. So Bosch would do the body control module, someone else would do the seat control module, someone else would do the engine control module.
Right.
And we'd have about 150 of these modules with semiconductors all through the car. The problem is the software are all written by 150 different companies, and they don't talk to each other.
Right.
So even though it says Ford on the front,
Yeah.
I actually have to go to Bosch to get permission to change their seat control software.
Right.
So
Wow.
even if I had a high-speed modem in the vehicle and I had the ability to write their software, it's actually their IP. And I have 150, we call it the loose confederation of software providers, 150 completely different software programming languages. All the structure of the software is different. It's millions of code, and we can't even understand it all. So, that's why at Ford we've decided in the second generation product to completely insource the electrical architecture.
Right.
And to do that, you need to write all the software yourself. But just remember, car companies haven't written software like this.
Yeah.
Ever. They've
Yes.
never written software. So we're literally writing how the vehicle operates, the software to operate the vehicle for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So this whole interview is pretty candid by Jim Farley, and you learn a lot of stuff that I've known for a long time, with the difficulties that traditional automotive would have moving into electric vehicle space. Mainstream media made it seem like, it'll be so easy once traditional automotive, they know how to make cars, so they'll make electric vehicles and they'll snap their fingers and they'll have compelling electric vehicles on the road. But a few of the points that Jim Farley brings up in the interview, like he said there, they've never done software before, so basically they need to hire software engineers. They didn't have any. It's the first time they've done this, so that's a whole new ball game for them. He mentions that there's no profit. He kind of alludes to the fact that they won't be able to compete with Tesla in the affordable EV market. So he kind of suggests that they're not going to even try to make an affordable electric vehicle. They're going to focus on features inside the car to differentiate their vehicles from competitors. He also talks about the culture of the company, telling the story of how the F-150 Lightning came to be, and it was just a small group of Ford employees, and there was a lot of struggle inside the company of people trying to kill the project. Another thing he didn't talk about, but is also holding them back moving towards EVs, is the dealership network. Dealerships are not as big of fans of electric vehicles, as there's less maintenance, and there's a move to make the sales all online, so that doesn't work well for dealerships. And also the UAW, United Auto Workers, are making efforts, I would say, to slow down the transition to electric vehicles. So a lot of headwinds for traditional automotive to make the switch to electric vehicles, and highly recommend watching that whole video, as Jim Farley covers a lot of it And, it's coming from the horse's mouth. He's the CEO of Ford, Traditional Automotive, and he admits all these struggles that every company is going to have. And he makes a comment that VW and GM are not going to be the competition. Tesla and the Chinese companies are going to be his competition. And next, we got an article from Electric regarding the Tesla and Ford partnership on charging. The headline here, Standard angers CCS coalition, but they are wrong. So there's this organization called Charlin, and they're supporting the CCS standard. And they basically say that their standard is the way to go. It's easier to use, and the Tesla charger is more problematic to use, but I would disagree. The CCS is big and clunky, and the Tesla connector is much more easier to use. So this organization is worried that this is the first step towards Tesla's charging standard becoming the standard that all companies may use. So they're pushing back against that. However, the Tesla network is the most developed, I would say, the smoothest operating, most reliable. And this Charin organization made comments of they're the worldwide standard, which is not true. So that article is worth checking out if you're interested. But the long story short is that they're pushing their standard and saying that Tesla standard is no good. But I would disagree. Lastly, got some interesting comments from GM CEO Mary Barra. Article from Yahoo Finance here. Barra stated that EV battery costs are still too high for manufacturers to build profitable mass market vehicles that sell for $30,000 to $40,000. Reuters reported that the GM CEO predicted that electric and combustion vehicle costs will equalize sometime in the latter part of this decade, maybe a little longer. So Mary Barra is saying that GM won't be able to make $30,000 to $40,000 profitable electric vehicles until the late part of the 2020s, maybe later, maybe 2030 and beyond. Meanwhile, Tesla is selling an electric vehicle at $40,000 profitably today. So I guess I would say that highlights how far ahead Tesla is and why Jim Farley basically is not going to try and compete in that department because they're just too far behind. So it seems like Ford's plan is to differentiate themselves with things like the Ford F-150 Lightning. They mentioned in that video that the ability to charge the two-way charging, so you can use the truck to power your home, was a big feature that they believe got a lot of buyers for the Ford F-150, which, yeah, it is a cool feature for sure. So they're going to try and do things like that to separate themselves from the pack and sell more vehicles, but they're not going to try and compete on affordable EVs. So yeah, I think these comments just highlight what a lot of us who pay attention to this space have known for a long time, that traditional automotive companies are going to struggle big time to, in my opinion, to survive this transition to electric vehicles. How difficult it's going to be, and all the hiring and costs that are going to be involved. It's going to be a very tough transition. I think just starting from scratch as a startup that's going to strictly focus on electric vehicles is still very tough, but was a better way to go to get electric vehicles on the road. And Ford's kind of trying to do that by separating their electric vehicle business out from the internal combustion engine business, but they still have both, and they have to juggle both. And if you watch that video, you'll see the struggles that they're having, and these comments from the CEOs are are highlighting those struggles. So that's it for this one. My name's Evan Bertrand. This is the Evergreen channel. Give the video a like if you liked it. Subscribe by clicking on the wheel in the bottom right. And thanks for watching.